All right, and we are recording. So welcome to the October 2022 Youth Services meeting. I'm glad that you're all here. Before we get started, I want to put a call out. Are there any topics that any of you would like to discuss? Any questions that you want to ask of one another that we can add to the meeting? Does anything come up? Okay. All right. And if something, comes up, we'll have time to discuss it. So I'm going to the agenda item number 2A, just to remind everybody of some upcoming deadlines. Tomorrow, and actually at the end of today, if you are placing a puppet order with the group batch order with South Central, if you could email that order or fax it over to Heidi Moe, we'd appreciate it. We're placing that order on Monday. And just a little background information about the puppet order. We do this once a year. It is a way for you to stock up on programming materials or materials that you put out in your libraries for kids to play with during the coming year. By participating in the puppet order, you get a discount. It's about a 20% discount based on what you would pay for the Folk Manus puppets in the store, and South Central pays for the shipping. So we will, if you participate, the puppets that you order come to South Central. We have a great big old party when we unbox them and take lots of fun photos, and then we ship them out to your libraries in delivery. And we then bill your library for those materials. So it's a way for you to save money, not only on the discount, but on shipping. Any questions about that? It's something we've been doing for many years, and I think we need to spend a total of $100 to get the discount, and that usually happens pretty fast. Okay. Another approaching deadline is the South Central Library System provides youth programming funds, youth literacy funds to every library each year. We ask that you spend that money by the end of October so that we can then submit and then you share the invoices or receipts for materials that you purchased with Heidi Moe, and then we will get a check cut for you before the end of the year. So the sooner you get those reimbursement materials, requests, and invoices to Heidi Moe, the sooner you get your money, and we will not be providing any extensions for 2023. So I want to make sure you all get your money. If you have any questions about how to spend that money, if you haven't already done so, let me know. As a reminder, these funds are to help support you in your youth programming efforts. A lot of times people use these for the summer library program, materials for incentives if you have any. Many libraries use them for performer fees. You can use it all year long. So as long as you are using the money to purchase materials or to fund programs that support your library's youth literacy efforts. You can't use it towards general collection development, but you could buy if you want to beef up your professional collection materials for your own use for programming. You could use that too. All right. Any questions? All right. Oh, and Patty in Cambridge, thank you for leaving the joke. We're going to jump back to what's making people laugh. Sounds like a joke. In Cambridge, they were playing a guessing game at story time, and you said that this animal is extinct, and the little girl said it was a skunk. That is really cute. That is really funny. And of course, the answer was a dinosaur. That's hilarious. Um, a few updates from DPI. Thank you to everybody who sent me anecdotes about how you're using Beanstack at your libraries. I did pass things along to DPI and talking about things with my other colleagues in other systems. And as Nicole confirmed this morning, that the contract for Beanstack does run through 2023. So feel good that you can use it all through 2023. I know that DPI is very supportive of Beanstack, and I'm feeling good that this is something that the state will be supporting for years to come. But 2023, we are definitely good. Oh, thank you, Brooke, for adding the question about what we're doing for programming as the weather gets cooler. We'll definitely add that right away after just a few more things. I'm going to add that as discussion after discussion item 2C, because that will go right into our other questions or other discussion about programming. I had a meeting earlier today with Jenny Schomber, who is a new public library development team consultant at the DPI, and once again told her that we're really looking forward to getting the password for the 2023 SLP manual, and I have a feeling that's going to be coming very soon. I have a meeting with all youth services consultants from other systems next Tuesday, I think, next week. And I'm hoping that we will get that access then yeah, Helen, go ahead.
Hi, so this is my first year coming in at this point. Can you give a little bit of background on how this manual process works, please?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the state of Wisconsin purchases, we are a part of the consortium of summer library program state planners. And every year the DPI, using LSTA funds, purchases, it used to be a paper manual, but now it's an online manual access for every library in the state of Wisconsin. And the manual is accessed entirely online through a code that changes every year. And so what we're waiting for is that code so that we all can jump in and take a look at what the manual looks like this year, what the artwork looks like. We usually get it about this time of the year. I think it might be a week late or something like that. Others can chime in on that. Um, it helps us start planning for next summer's program. Libraries are not committed to using the CSLP materials. This year, I think I'm going to buy access to the iRead program, which many people know of, that started through the state of Illinois. It's another summer library program manual. They're kind of, I don't know if they're competitors. I don't know if that's the right term. Some people like their materials better. At the CSLP shop is open now. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole, for letting us know. Going back to iRead, we at South Central, since DPI is using our state funds for the CSLP materials, that's what we officially support. Although we know that some libraries use other materials, including iRead, and so at least Deb and I will have access to seeing what the iRead materials are. And you don't have to go with any theme for the summer library program. Some libraries do the same theme every year, celebrating community. You can use the materials from the CSLP or from any manual throughout the year. This is just a way to support you in your summer program efforts. Does anybody else want to chime in about the manual or CSLP?
I was just gonna say the manual mostly offers programming ideas for different age levels, and also printables. I feel like that's how we mostly use it if you choose to. You know, I usually just have my staff look through it, and if sometimes it gives us new ideas, sometimes we find things that we can use that fit into ideas we already had. But yeah, like Sean said, it's all based on the specific collaborative summer library program, which is nationwide, and libraries choose to buy into it or not. But it's nice for us just because SCLS offers it to us. And we tend to like it because then we don't have to create all these graphics from scratch ourselves. So we always use it just because then we have this theme, we have all these cute graphics. I usually buy supplies from the shop, mostly for marketing purposes, like the posters, and you can get stickers and bookmarks and all of that kind of stuff. And we always like looking at the t-shirts because my staff, we usually each get a t-shirt that we wear for the summer. I think that's pretty much it.
Do you have the shop open right now, Nicole?
I
Have
do.
you looked at the graphics or the?
Yes,
Mhm.
your agenda reminded me right before. Do you want me to share my
Oh, no,
screen?
if you could just tell us what you're seeing. Or, yeah, if you, yeah, want to share your screen, sure.
It looks like it's not letting me. It's
I'm going to make you co-host and then you
oh,
can.
okay.
You should be able to. Okay.
Okay, there we go. I think I can. Can everyone see that?
Yeah.
I can try to zoom in here. So all together now. It
I
doesn't
love the
look like,
theme.
yeah, it doesn't look like they have everything out. And they used to have like, you know, a young children theme, a school age children, a teen theme, and an adult one. And they've kind of condensed it in recent years. So I think this is the children's theme, I'm guessing.
Probably.
And then this one looks to be the adult one.
And then within the manual, as Nicole mentioned, oh, that's cool. The manual has specific sections for early literacy programming, and in the manual, the graphics then get a little more specific. So the graphic materials for early childhood, are are appropriate for younger kids, whereas the graphics for the adult program is for grown-ups. But it is, yeah, it's for early literacy, school age, teen, tween, and then adult. And they even have some multi-generational program ideas in the manual too. All together now. That's sweet. We So yeah, I will keep you all informed about that. It should be coming any day now, because this is usually the time of year when we get them. All those stickers for water bottles look like younger kids stuff. Thank you, Nicole.
Hey, you're welcome.
I tentatively, every year we have the youth programming workshop. This year it is next month on November 11th at Old Brick Gardens. Jean and I are getting the registration page open and ready. We thought we'd have it by this morning, but it certainly will be maybe by the end of today. In the morning, Megan Schlesman and Mary Lindgren from the CCBC will talk about collection development, some new books, and definitely looking at book challenges. The afternoon is going to be Anna Horuse, who was a former children's librarian at the Baraboo Public Library, and he's going to present some ideas about practical program ideas, fun program ideas that you can use next summer and all year long. So I will send that out too. That was one of the things I wanted to remind you of about some of our upcoming programs that we're excited about. The first thing, though, that's coming up, and it's coming up faster than I, I I feel time is just speeding by. Next week on Thursday, October 20th at 1 p.m., Debbie Reese is going to be presenting a webinar for us on updating your collection, selecting and deselecting materials with native content. So Debbie Reese is a professor at the University of Illinois. She is known for her work with identifying appropriate materials written by Indigenous nations and people of Indigenous nations. She was the Arbuthnot lecturer a few years ago, and she really is somebody who the entire nation looks to for information about Native books, about books with Native content. It's kind of a coup where not a coup, we're really excited to have her. And if you cannot attend that webinar in person at 1 o'clock next Thursday, we will be recording it. However, we don't have unlimited access to that recording. It will only be available for a month. So if you're interested, know that a month after the program ends, we won't have access to any of those recordings anymore. That is based on her request. And I have the information and the registration in the agenda. Also on Thursday, October 20th, is the Zolotow Lecture, which is held every year at the University of Wisconsin here in Madison. It is sponsored by the Friends of the Cooperative Children's Book Center. This year, I haven't seen any information about the lecture being streamed, being a hybrid lecture. So as far as I know, it's in person. If anybody has seen anything else, let me know. But it will be presented by Grace Lynn and Alvina Ling, and they are co-hosts of the podcast Book Friends Forever. And I have listened to a few of the podcasts. They're very informative and they're informal and they're fun. Grace and Alvina are friends, so it's a really fun podcast. And they're going to be here presenting on Thursday, October 20th. I hope to get to it. I have it on my calendar. So if any of you are there, maybe we can meet up and attend together. Does anybody have questions about the CEs that are coming up? Once again, we always have the CCBC Shorts webinars, and those are coming up. I think we have one next week, and I have the information about those listed in the agenda. Okay, so Brooke asked the question about programming and outdoor programming, indoor programming. I would love to open up the conversation to all of you and let us know what you're thinking about for programming in these coming winter months. Nicole, thank you. DPI sent an email that includes a lecture live streaming link. I will grab that. I didn't see that. So it is available to stream. Okay. I'll link to that in the notes. Thank you, Catherine.
Well, we just had our first indoor story time yesterday morning for the first time since COVID. So 2.5 to 3 years. And I have loved doing these programs outside so much. And the parents really loved it too, because they all want to get their kids outside. But the weather's getting colder. We even had some snow yesterday, I hear. But the thing I'm doing is I'm limiting it to a small number, to limiting it to 12 kids. But I'm finding that it's even less because not all of them can show up every time, which is what happens with registrations. So I'm keeping a waiting list. And also, just today, we decided to get an air purifier for our storytime room that we're going to start running during the story times. This past summer, we did all of our programs outside, and it was very successful. We had some of the biggest programs we have ever had, and we had much more space outside to use too than indoors. So that's my input on what we're doing. We're going back to inside programming very slowly.
Thank you, Catherine. So when you say that you're limiting that to 12 kids, that means that, you have parents or caregivers of those
Yeah,
children coming to.
I'm saying 12 kids plus their caregivers. I think yesterday we had 10.
Oh. Does anybody have questions for Catherine? Go ahead, Helen.
Which air purifier are you doing? Like what? That's exciting to me.
Yeah, well, my director just ordered it, and I don't remember what the brand is, but she had offered us these little desktop purifiers that we found out about from Jean yesterday at SCLS. But I said, I don't really have people in my office anymore anyway, so let's get one for the storytime room where we do have people. So she's getting a big one that covers almost 1,000 square feet. Our storytime room is about 800 square feet.
We've had upstairs here, we're a 2-story library, Carnegie building, so it's kind of like a house. And we have had one upstairs. Well, there used to be 2 upstairs, but this summer we've been having some issues with like our drains, and so it's been kind of,
Oh,
yeah. So it's on DPW's radar, but so we were able to get one down here, which is where our story time is as well. And they do tend to cover a large space, but we do have, a couple of, like, the programming room is a room versus like the children's department, and then my office is a room. So I think ours work pretty well, but a desktop one, I would love that, because if I've got that purifier out there, or if we have story time, we tend to move it into the programming room. But yeah, Catherine, if you wouldn't mind sending me links, that'd be awesome. I like
sure.
fresh air. I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
got my fan
on. Yeah, I have an email. I will send it to you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And good luck. I think
thank you.
That slow start is good. We I started at the end of April here, and they had just decided to go back to it. And I have been wearing my mask a lot, but I'm growing fatigued from it. And then I had so we do still have some patrons who wear them, and I'm very glad to see that when they do. But here in Columbus, it's kind of become a forgotten issue. So but I think that you're doing the right thing for you guys. So, and also, who is Brooke, was it? You can do it, Brooke. It's scary, but you can do it.
I just sent a instant message over to Jean asking her if she's there, if she could send us a link for the desktop purifier. So I'll share that out if I get it during today's meeting, or I will definitely put it in the notes. I see in chat that we have a few comments. Well, and Helen, you were the first person. We have a new person coming in, that you have been doing some in-person programming since last April and had very high attendance. 32 people last week for story time, and that is a lot. That is a lot for your space. Pokemon and Lego events, about 20. So you haven't really had it on your radar, indoor versus outdoor. In Sauk City, Brittany says that they have, and Plain, of course, Brittany and Plain does both Plain and Sauk City. Indoor programming was started last June, and all families really enjoy being able to be inside together again. And numbers are back as well. That's great. That's good. That's good. I'm hearing that from more people, is that as things, as you know, we get farther into 2022, that numbers are returning. Carrie from Baraboo, they are doing on-site inside school age programs twice a week since the beginning of September, and the team program has been inside and on-site weekly for over a year. I remember you telling us that. Thank you, Carrie. And the baby story time inside at their civic center in November. Cool, no registration required. We are very limited with indoor space as the building is under construction and no program room whatsoever. And so many libraries don't have program rooms, so we can relate to that. Nicole, Stevens Point or Portage County, has been doing some indoor story time since spring, 25 to 35 people each, getting story times for babies back, and you're expecting to see about 20 people each time. Cambridge is back to normal. Thanks, Patty. And Middleton has been doing indoor programming for a while too. And parents are glad to be back, responsive and glad to be back. Slow start with registration. So it sounds like many of you are, really embracing that slow start. I think a lot of us are getting more comfortable with slow starts for everything in all of our lives. Any other programming questions? Helen, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for being so responsive to my my questions. Like, I get really nice responses from you guys. So thank you. Like, you're really generous with your time and knowledge. And I've just felt really supported being new to the field. Thank you. So thank you.
You're welcome. We all learn from each other. I'm learning from you, Helen. Earlier, what is it, fall? Forget what season we're in. Earlier this fall, Rebecca Miller-John from the Madison Public Library sent a note out on Kids List asking for libraries to share any information with her about what you do for sensory story times, how you create opportunities, experiences in your library programs for children who have sensory needs, who may be on the autism spectrum or just sensory in general. And I thought that this might be a good topic for us to discuss at one of our youth services programs. I forgot to put in our agenda a few years ago in 2018, South Central had a CE, one of our youth programming workshop presenters talked about sensory programs. Renee DeGrassi from Minnesota. So in today's meeting notes, I will link to Renee's presentation slides, any handouts. Renee really is a national expert on this type of programming, on sensory programming. It makes me think that maybe we should have her do a webinar for us just as a reminder in 2023. But I thought that this might be a nice time for us to talk to each other about how you create sensory experiences in your story times, or any questions that you have for one another. I know we're all getting back to programming again. Or have any of you, even in the past, if you're not doing it right now, specifically had sensory programs that you publicized, that you marketed? Go ahead, Helen.
So for your first question about sensory experiences during story time, my coworker, my colleague, Susan Waters, she's been doing this for about 15 years. She works just part-time, but not just, I mean, I wish she was around all the time. She's so knowledgeable and so great. And she's really good about incorporating the little egg maracas into rhymes and songs. Last week, she pulled out the scarves for the kids to be using during the dancing. And yeah, she's always so good about incorporating things that they can touch, or like motion, like getting them out of their seat to stand up and work out the wiggles. So I'm always really impressed, because yeah, when they get to use the props in the story time, it does really seem to connect them a whole lot better. Yeah, so she's been doing that, which is great.
Thanks, Helen. Nicole?
So I have to admit that this topic kind of confuses me sometimes, because are we focusing, I guess, is the topic more on like low sensory story times? Are we talking about, because I know sometimes people have story times that are made for children who are maybe sensitive to a lot of sensory things, maybe to like bright lights or loud noises, that sort of thing. So is that kind of what we're talking about? That's why I get confused when it's called the sensory story time, because I feel like usually it's more of a low sensory story time. But correct me if I guess help me better understand.
Thank you, and thanks for asking that clarifying question. I think it includes both elements. I'm remembering some of Renee's presentation, and I think she did talk about, how can we make a quieter space, right? Even how can we perhaps have the story time shortly before the library opens, so there isn't as much sensory information going on in the space for participants of those programs. So I think for today's discussion, we're looking for examples of both. So the examples that Helen provided, as well as examples of like, yeah, how do you provide that space that isn't stimulating or overwhelming? Catherine.
Sorry, I'm having a
Sorry.
little trouble with my mute and unmute button. There we go. So our director just put together some sensory kits that she has displayed on a table. And the way that they work is that people can take them and play with the stuff in them, or use the stuff in the kit while in the library. So they're not for checkout, they're for use in the library. And I assume she did that because she found that that was the best way to do it. And they've been very kids are really interested. I mean, all kids are really interested in these kits. And then the other thing I wanted to say is that I haven't done sensory story times. I would like to. I tried to do a sensory program by hiring a magician who has autism. And I had 2 or 3 librarians who were interested. It didn't work out for us. He turned out to be kind of expensive because he's from far away. So plane fare was involved and, hotel was involved in all those expenses. But maybe in the future, because he looks really, really good. And he does sensory programs. So he talks about what it's been like to have autism and to be negotiating the world, especially for teens, because it turns out that kids with autism are generally supported until they get to about high school. And then he said, it drops off and you're left kind of on your own. So it's good for teens to hear about what he did and what things are like. Yeah, Helen.
Would he ever consider doing a virtual program for you, like where he does that aspect, like gets to?
I think probably. I should look into that more. I think he certainly had it as an option during the shutdowns in COVID, but I'll see if he could still do it. That might be an option.
Yeah, and I mean, and if it's that kind of program, I mean, to maybe multi-book him, I mean, or make it, I've had several parents, I think 4, around a small handful of parents who have recently, their children have recently been diagnosed with autism under the ages of 6. And so, I think so, and I don't know yet our teen population, but providing, I do want to move towards that, there is that, I have noticed that there's that trend of, oh, we pay a lot of attention to the younger ages, right? And needing to, so I'm trying to expand my way upwards in the age group, but we might be very interested in going in on that with you, Catherine.
Okay, great.
Where are you again? CSP? What's?
Yeah, Cross Plains.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Oh, I love Cross Plains. Oh, hi.
Well, and I'm wondering if this is something that maybe he could even do a webinar for South Central about the needs of, the teens, because I'm thinking, I even see that in the work that we do. We focus a lot on the younger kids and the teen services. Sometimes some libraries have teen services librarians, but some of us do it all. So that might be a good webinar in the future, or even an LSTA project that I might want to work on is autism in teens. What do you all think about that? Um, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
good.
yeah. Thank you, Nicole.
Oh, I was going to say, just related to this, we've had a neat thing happen over the past few years where groups who have disabled adults have been coming to our library frequently, and they hang out in the children's area, and they've also been coming to our story times. And some of these groups also, like one group that was just here a few minutes ago, included a couple teenagers who just graduated. And so I think they've kind of moved into this other group now. But they have been loving our story times, and even just hanging out and playing and watching the kids. Sometimes they'll play like checkers at a table. Sometimes they'll color. A lot of times they're handlers. I'm not sure what the caretakers will pick out a story and read to them at one of our tables if they aren't here for story time. But that's been a really positive experience for us.
That is really cool. Helen had a question for you, Nicole, asking if you use picture books In those story times, is that what you were referring to, Helen? Yeah.
Yes, so they just attend our normal family story times. And typically, you know, a lot of times we have the kids sitting on the floor in carpet squares. And so these groups tend to have chairs that they set up kind of around the perimeter. But yes, they just attend our normal story times that we gear towards preschoolers. And if they're just visiting, their handlers will also frequently pick up picture books to read to them themselves as well. But they like to wander around, and some of them pick up all of our handouts, anything we have printed, they'd like to collect them. And they're really funny. They just come and chat with us at the desk and tease us a lot. And it's been a lot of fun.
And what an example of, community inclusion, that we're all together. Oh, I've got lots of ideas are going through my brain about maybe a future project, with connecting teens and uh, adults to materials in the youth section. Have any others had experiences similar to Nicole's, or want to refer? I know that Patty also supports using musical instruments in story times, and Bethany having sand and rice bins after story times. Oh, for sensory experience. There are all sorts of experience ideas on Pinterest. So Bethany, if you have any ideas that you want to share in the notes, please do so, or send them to me and I'll put them in the notes. The biggest hurdles are um, our cost, right, for the bins and materials and storage. So I know this isn't going to be the answer for everybody, but in 2023, if you want to beef up your sensory programming materials, you can definitely use SCLS funds for that. You can use SCLS funds to purchase materials like Catherine mentioned, for her, the sensory kits at her library. And that's something that we can definitely support and, share with one another what you're doing.
Sean, I think Jody had a hand up.
Oh, Jody, thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Yes, Jody. I can unmute you. Oh, there
Oh,
you
no,
go.
I didn't have my hand up.
Oh, okay. It was nice to see you, though. We're glad you're here.
Yeah.
So I think this is a topic we'll be revisiting in the future. I'm looking at the time. We have about 10 minutes left. I want to point out that today was supposed to be a Book Bites program, but we do have another one scheduled for December. We will be having our meeting in November, will be the youth programming workshop, but I'll have a bunch of books there to give away for next year's summer library program, and just give away books in general. So bring your tote bags to the meeting on November 11th. If you can't make that meeting, please fill out the Google form that is linked to the agenda, and I'll ship some books over to you. I'm always getting books from publishers that I'm looking for homes for. So thank you to those of you who have filled out the Google form. If you filled the form out and you haven't received anything from me in the last month, please send me an email and I'll make sure that I'm updating my own records for that, because I have books and I want to get them into your libraries. We have, I have in the last couple of days, going through my emails from when I was sick earlier this week, I think I have 2 or 3 publisher preview webinars or, online meetings that I've received information about. So I'll forward that to both Kids List and Teen Talk. It's usually like Random House and Simon and Schuster, Penguin. They want librarians to know about what they're reading or what they're publishing, so you can have that on your radar and think about ordering. And we always have the book list webinars. Of course, we have Debbie Reese's workshop coming up next Thursday, and all of the CCBC choices, um, CCBC shorts, and also the CCBC choices webinar. I am looking at my agenda. So we have a lot of stuff coming up towards the end of this year. Don't forget to take a look at the archived continuing education programs that we have. We have a lot of webinars. They're on the CE page, and I've linked to them in the agenda, and I will link to them in the notes too, just to make sure that they're there and that you all have access to them. I think Jean may have sent an email back. Oh, Jean says about her air purifier on her desk, she has two different kinds. One is from Menards and one is from Target. They are smaller room-sized ones. The one that she has in the office is called Comfort Zone, and I think I have a Holmes one at home. So Comfort Zone and Holmes. I'm going to thank her for that. So yeah, it sounds like Jean didn't order, something from a medical company or anything. It was a standard commercially available air purifier. Oh, Bethany. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anything else that's on your minds? Anything you're thinking about? The WLA conference is in early November in Lake Geneva. There's some youth programming workshops planned for the conference. I did not put that in the agenda, so I'll add it to the notes. I actually am not going to WLA this year, so if people go to good sessions, please let us know in December. Helen?
So, I was wondering if what the if for people who don't go to WLA, if there's an opportunity for like the youth services presenters that go there, if there might be an opportunity for them to kind of provide a summary or maybe like their contact information, so that if we wanted to follow up with them and find out more about what they were discussing, because I'm sure they put a lot of work into it, and there are so many of us across the state. Yeah, so if they wanted to like share, like continue to be accessible outside of the conference to keep the conversation going, or like introduce it to some of us who don't go.
It's interesting. Thank you for that question. I was in a meeting earlier this morning where we talked about something very similar. It wasn't youth services topic. It was about inclusive services programs that are being scheduled for the WLA conference. And my feeling is that just going to the conference itself can sometimes be exclusive. Not everybody can go. It costs money to go. As a system person, what I'm interested in is if there are topics at the WLA conferences that we want to bring as a webinar to youth services librarians, I would be happy to arrange that. I think that's an appropriate way of using system dollars and continuing education funds that I have access to. So we can, if there's webinars that we could create, because I agree, I've done a lot of presentations and I put a lot of time into it. And sometimes just doing it once, I learn as I'm doing it. I would love to be able to present a second time and just learning from the colleagues who are participating. Um, completely changes presentations. So I will definitely look at the offerings and ask, see if we can have some follow-up webinars. But please, if any of you see programs that you're interested in, let me know. They, have author lunches, which brings me up to another idea that I've had moving forward is, could I contract with an author and have an author, talk to us or talk about their work for the youth services librarians? I mean, might that be something we want to do some month or have a Zoom talk? Thanks, Katie. Have a good weekend. So yeah, anything that comes up. Helen.
Sorry if I'm too enthusiastically participating. So I got some really good responses from a couple of you about authors that, because I was thinking about authors for things too, for our programming. But we had the Arden Author Fair here in Columbus. Oh, hi. In Columbus in the September, and I got cards for a few of the local authors, and they like to do writing workshops and youth workshops. And so and we actually have one of our Valerie Beal. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Valerie. She's pretty well connected with the workshops, I think, in the author scene. Like she also has done teen and tween books and also offers workshops. She's done writing workshops here in Columbus. So I'm reaching out to her about doing that moving forward. So maybe authors that also do workshops, like I'm interested in their books, but also it's exciting what they want to offer as authors to the youth.
Could you send me her information?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I think that would be really exciting. Local authors, Nicole said especially. Otherwise, we feel like we had a lot of emails from publishers about online author interviews. Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that. Okay. Coming up on noon. Are there any final questions or thoughts or requests? We'll look into some local authors because we certainly have them. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording.